street level, down the far end of Cole. I've been to the Palestra, that seats about 9,000, and walked in there and I made up my mind I was going to go to Maryland just because it was, you know, the biggest place I'd ever seen. That's a good reason to pick a school, but that's why I came to Maryland. That's where I wanted to play. So here we are a few years later, and it looks great in there. I got a chance to look at the place, and you know, hopefully it'll be a lot of fun tonight. Any questions?
Eric, can you ever foresee them playing? I mean, do you think they should try to play a game here?
I think it'd be great. I really do. And especially, I think they want to play it during the break in late December, where there's not many people around anyway. And I think that would be a way to make it feasible for the season ticket holders and the students that did want to come. So I think it'd be a great thing to play a game here. And this place should be remembered. I really believe that there should be a Maryland Basketball Hall of Fame here, given what this building has been, what it has meant to college basketball, not just, you know, for the university, but for the whole of college basketball.
Gary, was there? I know that I know you were instrumental in
I can
building.
still hear.
I know.
That's all right.
In building, you know, getting Comcast Center and the new arena, you had so much history here. Obviously, I can remember everyone looking forward to moving into the new arena, but was there mixed feelings when you did that?
Oh, definitely. It was looked into to fix this place, get it up to speed, you know, for what, 2001, 2002 in there. But the cost with the way the ceiling is here, trying to air condition it, the heating, the asbestos that was in the building. This is a big building, as you see it, you know, in the bowels of this building. It's really a big building, so it would have cost probably 2/3 to fix it up of what Comcast cost back then. So I think it was a way to go. Plus, Comcast gave all the coaches great offices in here. Their offices weren't very good, things like that. So it just made it better for. It wasn't just a basketball decision. It made it better for everybody.
Gary, do you recollect your first game here as a player and as a coach?
As a player, I really, I remember we played Penn State my sophomore year. We won the game. I don't think it was my first game though, but that was a big win for us. And as a freshman, you couldn't play. You weren't allowed to play back then. So my first year of varsity was my sophomore year. I remember we beat Penn State, and that was big because that gave us some confidence. We had a very good team my sophomore year. We were 18-8, and we were picked by Sports Illustrated, which was about the only poll back then. I think we were picked 12th in the country going into my junior year, but we weren't as good in my junior year, so that was it. But we really had a good team my sophomore year.
And as a coach?
First game, I think it was Delaware State. I don't remember much other than that, except that we won. Remember that.
I think Bensel beat you up.
Did he really? Well, I'm just glad his brother got the football job here, that's all. So, you know, the ACC, over the years, you know, it was just that was really when you found out how good you were, both as a player when I played here and coach, because before the expansion, when there was, you know, the 9 teams, there was no question who the best team was in the league. And whenever you get an expansion thing going, you have, you know, uneven matchups throughout the conference. It might not be fair to everybody involved, but that's all the leagues now. You know, that's where that is. And you know, it was just a great experience to be able to play in the ACC and coach in the ACC. I was fortunate again to coach in the Big East and the Big Ten, and that enabled me probably for 25, 30 years to coach against all the good college coaches in the country, basically, those 3 conferences. So it was very enjoyable. And what was great about Cole Fieldhouse, all those coaches really felt strongly about Cole Fieldhouse, about what a tough place it was to play, but yet what a great environment it was to play in. You know, games in here in January, Didn't matter what the temperature was outside, it was 100 degrees on the floor. Terrific advantage, you know, because we were used to it. Some teams were used to it. And, you know, it's just, you know, one of those places that most coaches and players would tell you they'd love to play, you know, a game in Cole Fieldhouse or whatever, and I got to coach here, so that was great.
Aaron, you remember the game that you had the field goal record for a while?
For a long time.
Long time.
It was South Carolina. I think it was my senior year. 8 for 8 from the field. Even made some jump shots that night. We lost by 1. I remember that. We got robbed on a call. Frank McGuire was coaching South Carolina back then, and Frank did a good job with the officials. He was very strong with the officials. So, but it was great. And it's one of those games you walk in after the game, you feel like going up to the coach and you go, see, I knew I could score a lot more if you let me shoot. I heard that from the players as time went by, though. So.
Is that your career high?
Oh, by far. Never a doubt. No, it was, and like I said back then, every team was really good. There was no bad teams. So, you know, it's a lot like the good leagues now. I mean, you know, the way the leagues are, you can play a team, you know, with a 15-team league or 16-team league. You can play the 10th ranked team, and you know that team might be in the top 40 in the country if you were really legit about who the best teams were and that type of thing. So it was a lot of fun, really. That's the thing I remember the most. That playing a year, you know, in Cole, how much fun that was as a player and as a coach. And the biggest difference was when I played, there was no seats on the floor, and you played. You didn't have a really good home court advantage because of that, because it was so open. The one the home court advantage was because of that, the depth perception for shots was really, there weren't any domes back end to speak of. So when you came into Cole, that was probably the biggest space behind the basket that you would shoot at. And so that helped us quite a bit, I thought, you know, playing here in Cole.
Gary, the big story last week in watching Baltimore's Cal Ripken saying he's getting the itch to manage again. Do you ever feel the itch when you're watching a game?
Cal never managed, you know. He doesn't know. He doesn't know what it's like. Yeah, I mean, there's things that happen that, you know, you watch games and, you know, you get into it or whatever, but I coached for 44 years. I mean, I was really lucky. You know, I had a great high school job. We won a state championship in high school. You know, I got to coach really good places. Started as a head coach with American U. You know, so I feel like I'm fortunate. I was really tired and just mentally and physically beat. You know, when I resigned, and you know, if I was a professor and could take a sabbatical for a year, and you know, maybe you know it would have worked. But now I'm pretty comfortable with what I'm doing. I'm doing some television and radio. It keeps you involved in the game. You have to follow it, and I enjoy following it. And, you know, you look at it from a distance, and you see some. The one thing you do, you see some things that you'd like to try. You know, you still feel that, well, if I had those guys and trying to do this, you know, that type of thing still goes on. So the things I miss, practice is what you miss the most, and just the interaction with the players. And, you know, some funny things happen in practice. People think practice is always, you know, tough and all that, but you know, over a course from October till, you know, hopefully the end of March, a lot of things happen in practice that you know, you miss those types of associations with your players, but you know, I don't miss a lot of other things in terms of coaching.
Along those lines, are there coaches that you talk to in the middle of the season now, just kind of say, hey, I saw your game, this is not you, just something along those lines?
Well, I try to, if somebody calls me, I'll talk to them. They say, do you see the game last night? It's usually after a loss when they call. But I was the same way. In other words, Tom Davis was the guy that got me into coaching, so I'd call him, or I'd call Tom Young, who was an assistant coach here before he went to American U, and those guys. And I think it's good sometimes just to bounce some things off of somebody else, because they see it differently than you do when you're coaching your team. So if somebody calls me, I tell them what I thought, and you can be honest. You know, you're not trying to sugarcoat it or anything like that. So I enjoy that.
You just mentioned some of the funny things that happen during practice and things like that. Can you share any anecdotes, any of your favorite, funny stories from practice or during your time here?
One of the things we used to do, no, I was young then, but one of the things we used to do in Cole Fieldhouse after practice, the press box away from the benches, we would see if we could punt a basketball up there, and I could. I was probably the best punter on the basketball team, so I was proud of that. But Walt Williams, I'm just thinking of things now when you said it. Walt would play the manager after practice. Walt, you couldn't get Walt off the court. He wouldn't leave. And so this is like 90, 91, 92. Walt would play the managers, and he'd try to beat the hell out of them every time he played. And he'd be laughing, and he'd block every shot, and things like that. And I used to, try to play Walt one-on-one a little bit, back then. But I was about as good as the managers. So.
And I know you did some work out with the Big Ten Conference, doing some TV for the Big Ten Network. Do you think too much is being made of the transition Maryland will have to make it and the difference in the game in the ACC and the Big Ten, or do you think there is a significant difference in the two conference styles?
Well, it is a significant move. I mean, the whole history of the school, basically modern history, has been the ACC. So it was a big move, but I really believe, and I said it at the time, that it's a very positive thing for the university, not just the athletic department, but for the university and for the teams involved. You look at football and basketball as kind of the flagship sports. And, I coached at Ohio State, so I know the Big Ten and worked in the Big Ten Network for a year, but I think it's doable. I don't think it's going to hurt. It'll be an adjustment period, but I think for the future of the University of Maryland, I think it's a great move because, let's face it, 50, 60 schools have changed conferences. We're not the only one doing that. So there's reasons why schools do change conferences, and I think we had some pretty good reasons. So.
All right, any other questions? Thank you, Coach.